Good afternoon, everybody. I'm the Hophead Connisaur, along with my co-star Coney here, and today is Subpar Sunday. If you've been following the series here, you know what Subpar Sunday is. If you haven't been following the series and are new to my channel, then Subpar Sundays is where we review a crappy domestic beer. Now, I know that might seem extreme, like, well, why don't you just say you're reviewing a domestic beer? Well, as a craft beer drinker, I'm going to sit there and call it crappy because the beers that I'm drinking today are nothing like the beers I drank back in the day. And the reason I say that is because, we all started out, if you're a craft beer drinker, or if you've, kind of dabbled in it a little bit, you started out drinking these domestic beers. And, we didn't know any better. And, some people just choose to keep drinking those beers. And it's a personal preference. I'm not here to judge you if you're drinking crappy domestic beers. I'm just here to give you my opinion on some of the beers that I'm reviewing that I have drank in the past and that have become a subpar beer. And I've had some of my friends tell me, don't you be talking about my Coors Banquet. Well, we already saw the Coors Banquet series there. And next one I'm going after eventually, well, two of them, and two of my friends have said to me, don't be talking bad about my beers. And that's going to be Coors Light and PBR. Oh, yes, those beers are coming and those reviews are coming too. Oh, my gosh. And it's so funny, like how people, talk about their beers and, talk about, I drank this over this. And I'm just like, I just can't get into it. With some of the beers that I've reviewed on here, there's no profile to it. Like it's like, sweet sugar water, with maybe a little bit of a flavor or something, but I just don't get much, and, I think last week I kind of described the Bud Light Crisp as, had a little bit of a wheaty flavor and everything. But I mean, in general, even in the craft beer industry, I'm not a big lager fan. I mean, I don't mind trying them and stuff. And a lot of times, I won't rate them. I just, kind of just leave them as, it's a lager. But, the craft beer industry does have, the IPL style, which we call an India Pale Lager. And, and I've had some hoppy lagers, which, for me being an IPA guy, I like my beers hoppy. They're not too bad. I drink an IPL over a domestic lager any day. And it's just the way, that I like my beers. For me, I like a profile. This past week, I had a beer at Coastal Fermentory that had a mango, passion fruit, pineapple profile to it. And, I like that stuff in my beer. I like a hoppy beer. I like bitterness. Some IPAs are bitter and some IPAs are not very bitter. So, it just goes with usually how big the ABV is and, like lower ABV sometimes doesn't have a lot of IBUs, but your higher ABVs do. So, that's just my thing. So I've been sitting here rambling on and everything. So you're probably thinking, what are we talking about today? Well, let's do a review or recap of what we've talked about so far. So, this is probably going to go in particular order, but, we started off with Miller High Life, the champagne of beers. Then we went to Bud Light Platinum and Bud Light to Ice House and that big old can that I did not drink. And then what we have after that, we had Mick Ultra Pure Gold, 100% organic, and 100%. I don't think it is organic all the way. Only two things in that beer was organic, not the rest of it. Then we went to, what did we do after that? Oh, we went to Coors Banquet, and then we did Budweiser on a failed earlier video that I have to go out to the Midwest and get again to do on here. And then last week we did Bud Light Crisp, which we had an audio fail on my first video, so I had to redo that one. So I had to, stomach that beer twice. So what are we talking about today? Rolling Rock. Okay, Rolling Rock has been around for a while. Rolling Rock's been around since the 1930s. Started out in Western Pennsylvania at a brewery called Latrobe Brewing Company. And, they've been good and everything with their beers. At one time, they were the 8th largest brewer in the United States. So, they did produce quite a bit of beer and everything. Then in 2006, they got bought by Anheuser-Busch. And if you're an Anheuser-Busch person or know anything about the beer industry, Anheuser-Busch got bought out by InBev. So now they've technically fall under InBev now, and InBev Anheuser-Busch. So what is this beer? Well, it is a 4.4% lager. As you heard me earlier say, I've been doing a lot of lagers here on this series, and that's been the big brewers style of beers, and they make some other things too. And I'm always going to have a choice of crappy domestic beers to choose from because there's a lot of beers out there, and I really wish we could bring back some of the beers that's not even in production anymore. Like, I would love to do a malt series with Zima. Everybody's had Zima before. Or if you haven't, you missed out in the 90s. I know some of y'all probably watching was like, I wasn't even born yet. I was like, well, I can't help you there. But in the 90s, we had a beer called Zima. It was malt liquor. So if you notice here, this is bottled in a glass bottle. We've been doing cans, small cans, tall cans, and this one here is actually in a glass bottle. Green isn't really good for beer just because if you know anything about beer and sunlight kind of will take a toll on beers that are done in green bottles. So you'll find a lot of times if you're buying beer, you'll find them in dark bottles so that the sunlight doesn't come through and kill the beer flavor. So let's go ahead and crack this 4.4% lager open here. And I must have to say, I have to give a shout out to a guy that I work with who got with a guy who made this. And if you can figure this out, good for you. So we're going to crack this bottle open here. And of course, pour it into our, I like to call it country bumpkin glass here. The candlestick stem with the mason jar glass here, or curd. All right, so let's go ahead and pour this into our glass here. All right. Now, if you watched last week's video, this one actually has more carbonation than the beer I had last week. This ought to be interesting drinking. All right, 4.4%. Okay. Now, what I like to do with my craft beers is I do like to smell it. Okay. Kind of got like a barley smell to it, I guess. Actually has more of a smell than some of the beers I've drank on here. So, all right. Actually, it doesn't smell too bad. So we're going to give this thing a taste. It's probably been about, 20 years since I've had this, 25 years probably. I can't even remember last time I drank a Rolling Rock, but here we go. Now, I'm just trying to let that aftertaste sit on my tongue, on my palate a little bit, try to give it a, not much flavor at all. Again, a little sweet. I said it kind of smelled like barley. I mean, maybe it tastes like that a little bit too, but God, just look at it. Just that carbonation. Like boiling water. As one of my friends would say, boiling piss water. You can tell the texture is light. Again, let me put this bottle up to it. Hey, look at that. Magnifies it. I can see it where it says Rolling Rock. See right through it. I can tell you right now, you're going to be seeing through any of my friggin' IPAs. So in keeping up with the tradition of the channel here, it is time to finish off Rolling Rock from Latrobe Brewing Company, who is now owned by InBev. So let's see how this goes. Wow, that one went down a lot easier. God, I feel like I'm gonna vomit. Ugh. And all that air buildup down here. Some of you will probably think, God, this guy's gonna vomit. Oh, that was rough. Man, there's just nothing to them. And you know, on a hot day, you can suck this thing down pretty easy, I'm sure. But I know you're probably gonna hear me burp here pretty soon. But anyway, oh, here it comes. Oh man, hear all that foam? Oh my gosh. Glad I got that out of my system. Anyway, thank you for joining me today on Subpar Sunday. Oh, I feel like another one's coming up here. Anyway, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you just follow me week to week just by popping me or pulling me up on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs down. Give me a comment. I'm always looking forward to comments from people. I usually am quick to respond about a day or two on them. Yeah. Sorry, Coney, you didn't get none of this. Thankfully, nobody visited my house from Friday's beer of tasting, so no one called Pete on me. But anyway, we will see you next week on Subpar Sunday for a review of another crappy domestic beer. Remember, get out there, support your local craft breweries, drink craft beer, and not crappy domestic beers. Cheers.